Welcome to My Spoonie Sisters, featuring stories from special guests dedicated to empowering those with chronic illness. Our goal? To connect people and provide the support and tools they need to live a better life. For those with chronic illness, our energy levels just fade faster. We must be more purposeful with the spoons allotted to us. So grab your coffee or tea, sister, and tune in as My Spoonie Sisters share stories of living with chronic illness. Hi, my Spoonie Sisters. I am Gracefully Jen, and I want to welcome you to one of my awesome friends, Amy. I'm excited to introduce her. And yeah, why don't we start out about you telling us all about yourself? What do you want to share?
So my name is Amy Arns, and I currently live in Iowa with my husband and our dog. I am very, very outdoorsy, so Iowa is a little tough to fit that in. My passions are definitely hiking and mountain biking and being outside. So we are actually in the process of selling our house and moving into an RV full time. So that'll be a whole new adventure, and I'm excited. So that's all about me.
I'm so excited for you. I can't wait to watch your adventure unfold. So I wanted to share with everybody the how we met story, but I don't know if we actually know what that is.
We have no idea. We met on Instagram.
Yeah.
Somehow. I don't know who reached out to who.
Maybe one of us liked each other's reels. I don't even know.
It could be. I was really big into searching hashtags, so it might have been that.
Who knows? Maybe it was our anxiety that brought us together.
That could be. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's dive in and let's talk about why we're here and about anxiety. So what is your diagnosis story? What does it look like?
So I have dealt with anxiety for as long as I can remember. It was just something that I honestly thought everybody had, and I thought that was how their brain worked. Growing up, I always remember my focus was always on my mom. If my mom wasn't with me, I was always very concerned about her, calling or texting her. When I went to college, I met my boyfriend, and my anxiety quickly turned from my mom to him. Things got a little crazy health-wise. He deals with a lot of health issues. He was diagnosed at 16 with UC. By the time he was 23, we were making the decision to have his colon removed. And he later then got diagnosed with Crohn's. And so that definitely set my anxiety into overdrive. I was no longer able to function. Our relationship was not in a good spot. And he gave me the option of either separating because neither one of us was happy or going to therapy. And 100%, I was like, yep, let's go to therapy. So I remember sitting in our first couples session, and the therapist was like, so you have anxiety, you guys love each other deeply. I know that isn't an issue. She's like, would you be willing to see me separately? And I was like, oh, this is a lot bigger of an issue than I thought it was. So I started individual therapy. We continued couples therapy. And that was where I was actually diagnosed for the first time of having anxiety as, the medical mental illness, not just everyday anxiety, but this is affecting my life. So it took a while, but having that diagnosis, I think, just kind of helped lift that weight off my shoulders of I'm not crazy, and I'm not having these thoughts because I want to. It's just the way my brain was working at that time.
This is who I am.
Yes.
Yeah. So did it help you to get that diagnosis? Did it help just kind of propel you to start feeling better? And
It did. And I knew I always had it, but I think having that diagnosis was like, oh, okay, like this is the same as diabetes or something like that. Like it is a medical condition that needs to be managed. And I was very hesitant to go the medication route. I actually fought it for a good year. Thankfully, my therapist was willing to work with me and give me all the tools and tips of holistic healing. But it got to a certain point where that just wasn't cutting it. And I really needed that medication to heal my mind. And I think at that point I was like, okay, I can't do this alone. Like I need the help.
right.
And without having that diagnosis, I don't think the route would have went the way it went.
So can you share some examples of the kinds of tools and things that she was providing to you?
So I have always been huge on fitness. That has always been kind of my stress relief without knowing it was my stress relief. If I'm feeling overwhelmed or anxious, like I very much am like, I'm going to tie up my shoes and I'm going to go outside. So it was one of those tools that I didn't even know I was using. That is like the number one holistic way to heal yourself. Like being outside, especially in nature, is so huge. Diet is another huge one, not filling our bodies with just junk constantly and really, nourishing our bodies and nourishing our mind. Meditation is another one that I use and have used for like 2 years every single day, like without fail. It doesn't matter what time, like I am getting in at least 10 minutes of meditation. Therapy is another huge one for me. I graduated from therapy earlier this year, but I also am not opposed to needing to go back at some point. Like I am very open that might happen. So those were kind of the ones that I really tried to focus on. Journaling is another one. So, and those are all things that I continue to do every single day.
Okay.
It's just, I also added in the medication. So.
Right. And did the medication that you went on, did that one start right away and did it work for you, or did you kind of have to try out a few different ones?
So thankfully, because I know anxiety and depression can be everything can be very individualized. So when she prescribed, my therapist couldn't prescribe. So I actually had to go to my general doctor. And when my general doctor prescribed the medicine, I had posted on Facebook and I got a ton of messages about people like warning me about taking the meds because of the horrible side effects. And I was already super nervous to begin taking them to start with. So that put my anxiety in overdrive where I was like, I don't want to take these to begin with. And now I'm getting all these horror stories. But I learned that it's very, very individual. And for me, I have no side effects. I would say it took about a week. I remember my husband came into my office and he was like, you seem different. Like, you seem like bubbly and full of energy. And I was like, yeah, it's because I just feel like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders. Like, I don't have these thoughts that are horrible consuming my every single moment of my day. So I had been taking 2 medications. I've since in the last year eased off of one, but I do still take Lexapro every single day. So
calling all Spoonies. As a host of a chronic illness podcast, nothing lights up my day more than hearing from you, our incredible listeners. Whether it's a topic close to your heart that you want us to uncover, or you are keen to show your own journey as a guest on our show, your voice matters. Living with chronic illness can often feel isolating, but through the power of podcasting, we can come together as a community to uplift, educate, and inspire one another. Your stories, insights, and questions drive the conversations we have and the topics we explore. So if there's something on your mind, a story that you are just itching to share, or a guest you'd love to hear from, don't hesitate to reach out. Your voice is not only welcomed here, but celebrated. Let's continue to amplify the voices of those living with chronic illnesses and create a space where everyone feels heard, supported, and empowered. Together, we are stronger. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And kind of like you, I did therapy. I started it in high school. And one of the things that they did for me was they had this thing where they were like, okay, I want you to lay on the ground and start wiggling your toes. Okay, now start wiggling your feet. Now wiggle your ankles and so on. And they just had me go all the way up. And supposedly it's supposed to help relax you.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I was so extreme at that point that it was like, you're just getting me more aggravated.
Yes.
Like I can't calm down right now.
Yeah. And I think that's the other thing is like finding the therapist that works for you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because the same one even told me to, I would pace. I was a pacer. The more my anxiety was amping up, the more I wanted to pace. He told me to sit on my hands. Just sit down, sit on your hands. And I'm like, how is that going to help me?
Right.
Like I'm probably going to get more anxious and want to vomit, but thank you.
Yeah. I was going to say my first therapist, so my anxiety, like I said, revolves very much around one person. And so at that point, it was my husband. And she was like, we'll have him go on a weekend trip and not tell you where he's going and just go. And I was like, I literally want to die right now. Like, no, I'm not doing that. And when I found my therapist now, she was like, have him go for a walk by himself. Let you know the route he's going to go, but let him go by himself. And so it was like, oh, you have to find that therapist that works for you or doctor, you have to find that person that you trust or it's not going to work.
Mm-hmm. You need someone that's going to listen to you and is going to work those baby steps with you.
Yes.
Because letting him go on a walk is one thing. Having him completely gone for a weekend to who knows.
And having no idea, yeah.
I couldn't even imagine. I can't. I can only try to wrap my head around that one, but no.
I stopped seeing her after that. I'm done. My anxiety is healed.
I don't blame you. Because I can only imagine what that would feel like. And it would be absolutely terrifying.
Yes.
Don't throw me to the wolves.
Right? That's a little extreme for most people would be cool with that. But
yeah,
for the point I was at, that was not a good fit.
Yeah. I had another counselor that I saw that gave me, and this was in college. This was one on campus. She gave me this moldable thing. I don't even know what to call it. It could be out straight all the way. And then you could take it and wrap it around your wrist or wrap it around whatever. And it was more of a, use this as something to distract yourself. Just mold it around. I think she might've called it a snake. I don't even know, but it was colored and I don't know. That's probably a better piece of advice than some of the other ones I got.
Yeah.
It's fun to talk to other people that have dealt with anxiety and just hear some of the things that they've been told.
Some of the crazy tips. And there have been great things that I have learned along the way, but there have also been horrible, horrible suggestions and tips and tricks that I'm like, nope, not even going to try that.
So how did, I know this isn't in the list of questions, but how did this affect your social life and your friendships?
I didn't really have them. Friendships were very much couple friends. So my husband would have friends that as long as they had a significant other, then it was like, oh, now we're all friends. we just didn't ever do anything apart. So I had friends, but we were always together. So it was never like, I have my friends, you have your friends. It was like, we have our friends. And if we're going to do something, we're going to do it together.
Do you feel more comfortable with relationships with other people now that you don't have this anxiety just weighing you down?
Yes. Like now I very much have like a core group of friends that it's like once a week or once every couple of weeks we're hanging out. And I think it's just that idea of like, oh, we can be separate and Derek can go hang out with his friends and I can stay home and the world isn't going to end. And just how healthy that's been for our relationship.
Yeah.
And our relationship with other people have definitely grown.
Do you feel like people have been pretty understanding and supportive, maybe even helpful for you?
I would say yes. I think a lot more people deal with anxiety, especially post pandemic, than we like to admit. So I think when I started to be very open and honest with my journey, I got a lot of people responding that I would have never assumed were dealing with it. And so for me, that was a huge part, right? For so long, I had felt like everybody thought this way, but it was also something that we don't talk about.
Right.
And so it's a very like a closeted emotional experience. You feel very alone. Even my husband was like, I don't understand what you're going through. Like, I don't get it. So finding those connections of people that are like, no, I also deal with this all the time.
Yeah.
Was very like freeing and liberating to be like, oh, now I have someone that I can talk to and explain, or just be like, hey, I'm feeling anxious. And somebody would be like, oh, I get it. Like, you don't have to explain anymore. I get what you're going through.
And sometimes they're just like, okay, how can I help? What can I do for you? Do we need to leave where we're at? Do we need to do something different? And I think that's wonderful. I think I spent so many years being afraid to share with people. And now I feel so much better now that I have, because now I've got these people surrounding me that are like, okay, let's walk away from whatever this is. If this is a restaurant we're at and it's too busy and something's bothering you, okay, we're done here. And those are the kind of people we need around us.
Absolutely. And I think the world is filled with so many of those people, especially when we are open and honest about who we are.
Exactly. And it's almost like the more we try to keep it to ourselves in a secret, the more the weight is crushing.
100%. Yeah.
Well, let's see. I have all kinds of questions from some of our little Spoonie sister group. And actually, it's not even that little anymore. It's really growing.
No, it has really grown.
All right. What do you wish you would have known at the beginning of your journey?
I think just that I wasn't alone, that it wasn't something that I had to fight by myself, that my support system was a lot bigger than I thought it was, and that I'm also a lot stronger than I ever gave myself credit for. One of the main things that I struggled with was low self-esteem, which I didn't even realize I struggled with. To me, it was always like low self-esteem has to do with appearance. And while I know I'm not like the most gorgeous person in the world, like I am very happy with how I look. And so I was like, I never had that struggle. But the negative self-talk and like how poorly I thought about myself on the inside was something that was brought up in therapy, that I was like, oh, this is true. Those thoughts are going through my head. And I think it's just taught me that I'm so strong, and my anxiety doesn't make me less of a person or who I am. Like, I have anxiety. That doesn't mean that I am all encompassing anxiety. Like it is one part of me.
That's just part of who I am.
Yes.
And that's such a small part of who you are. I mean, you,
Absolutely.
my goodness, you need to give yourself more credit because you look like a Disney princess.
I did put makeup on, so
You did more than I did today. This is the best you're going to get from me today. What does your self-care list consist of?
So, like I said, fitness is definitely high on the list. That is something that every day I am at least doing something. Running has become very therapeutic for me, which I never expected. Like, I was 100% that kid in high school that was like, how can I get out of running the mile, like in gym class? Because I hate it. I don't want to do it. I'm just going to walk it. But I've learned like it's so freeing for my mind that I try to get out as much as possible. Winters in Iowa are kind of rough, but we're easing into spring. So I'm excited for a lot more miles outside. I also spend a lot of time like coloring and doodling as a way to kind of let my mind escape and not be consciously thinking. Face mask. I love a good charcoal mask. I used to love baths, but I no longer have a bathtub. So
we've talked about
that doesn't happen anymore. Yes, because I bought a whole bunch of bath bombs and then I was like, now what do I do? Like get a Rubbermaid container and like jump in my shower in my Rubbermaid container? Like, how am I supposed to do this?
Wow. That's quite the picture. You can get one of those really big ones.
There are memes of it that people keep sending me, like, here, do this. And I'm like,
thank you for that.
You know, I'm actually tempted sometimes to be like, I could go get like one of those that a Christmas tree fits in. Like, I would probably fit.
And it's almost like, okay, I have all these bath bombs now. Do I save these in hopes I can use them later or figure out an option? Or are these gifts for people now?
I gifted them all away.
That's what I would have done.
I was like, we live in a house that doesn't have a bathtub, and the RV idea was always there, and there's certainly not a bathtub in an RV. So
you could do a mini bath bomb for your feet.
That's true. That is true.
Well, you know what I love about your social media is you are always posting and sharing all your running and just sharing such encouragement to other people. And I think that helps promote self-care to other people. And I just think that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah. And I think that's something that in therapy I learned was like self-care and self-love are so important. And for me, it was hard to realize that I didn't love myself. And so growing into, looking in the mirror and being like, no, I love the person that I see. Like that has been like 2021 was a huge year of growth for me. And honestly, I don't think I would still be here today had I not taken those steps to, seek professional help for both a therapist and the medication realm.
I'm so glad you did. I couldn't even imagine.
I am too.
Not knowing you and not sharing and all the fun things that we share on social media. What is your most triumphant warrior moment? Which one sticks out to you the most?
So I would say I actually traveled to Colorado by myself. We had a rental property, and due to health issues, we had to come back to Iowa. And I had to go out there and clean it myself. And I went to Colorado for 4 days. I drove by myself. I stayed in the house by myself. Don't kid yourself. There were plenty of times that I was like, I'm going to get back in my car and just go back home. This anxiety is crazy. But after it was done, I was like, I did that. Like, that was something that before would have never happened. Like, I would have hired a cleaning service and just been like, nope, they're going to take care of it.
That is absolutely a proud moment.
Yeah.
How far of a drive is that?
It was about 12 hours. So not crazy, but definitely the furthest I've ever been from my support system.
And going all by yourself. Wow.
Yes.
Wow. I'm proud of you.
I know. It was definitely one of those things where I was like, that was cool. Like,
that's a big deal. And I think that is definitely a triumphant warrior moment, because you can be like, if I can do that, I can do anything. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, what are a few misconceptions about anxiety that you originally believed were true?
I think first, just that we can't talk about it, that somehow talking about mental health and anxiety and depression is frowned upon.
Right.
That's very much not the case, or at least I am making that not the case. If I can just help one person know, like, it's okay, you're not alone, the world needs you, like, that to me is worth it. I think the other thing is I was so against medication when I started, because I saw it as like a failure. Even after I spent the year of like trying to holistically heal myself and reading all the books and doing all the things, when I was like, no, this is like affecting my body physically, like I have to do something, it felt very much like I had failed myself, until I realized, like, no, my brain is actually like broken and needs to be healed, and it needs the medication to rewire itself. And
Right.
that was like when it clicked, where I was like, oh, yeah, I wouldn't judge anybody for taking medication for anything. So, like, why I judged myself, I think, was very eye opening. Like, you didn't fail. Like, you're so much stronger for fighting through it instead of just giving up.
Yeah, it seems like so many people with anxiety and depression, we act like there's something so wrong with us and we should just be able to fix it. We don't need to talk about it, just fix the problem, be normal. And that's definitely a misconception, because sometimes you need that extra boost to fix what's going on. It could be a chemical imbalance that you cannot fix on your own. And that's okay. We are who we are, right?
Right. And what is normal, to be completely honest? Like, what does that even mean? Because,
I know. We get so caught up in that word, and
yes,
normal for everyone is different.
100%.
What is your advice to fellow Spoonie sisters?
I think just find your tribe, find those humans that are going to support you no matter what. Like, we're all going to have days that we struggle. And those are the days that you need those people there behind you, where you're like, I know I can go to this group, or I know I can go to this person, and they got my back. Like, we've never met in person, at least not yet. And I know if I had something going on and I messaged you, I know you would be there. Like, to me, that is the kind of support that I want.
So
and I think that's the support we all need.
Absolutely. No, I 100% agree. To go with that, when you were approached with this, were you familiar with the term spoonie? I think I probably confused you a little, didn't I?
You did. And so we had been talking some, and you asked me if I would join the group, and I was like, but I don't know what that is. Like, my perception was you all had RA, and I was like, I don't have that, and I don't think I can fit in the group. So I went and I had watched your like video where you were explaining it, and I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Like, yeah, I can fit into that. But before that, and I, even when I like post about spoonies now, people are like, what is that?
Yeah. You know, I don't even know when I finally heard about it the first time. But when I finally did, I was like, that is genius. To think of an idea like that to explain to people, and it's blown up into such a huge thing, but there's still so many people that don't know what it is.
That have no clue. Yeah.
And my coworker, I walked in, I'm like, okay, I need you to help me with something. Oh, okay. What do you need me to do? Well, it requires being on camera. Are you okay with that? And I can't tell you what I'm going to do, but I need you to just support me in this. Can you handle that? And the look I got of confusion and slight terror.
But he did it.
He did do it. And honestly, I felt like that video was so awkward on my part. I was so awkward. I've thought about redoing it. And I've thought about making different kinds of versions, just to better explain to people that, it could be your mental health, it can be your emotional health, your physical. It doesn't have to mean that you have rheumatoid arthritis or, I don't know, scoliosis.
A chronic condition, right.
Yeah. I mean, it can be so many things. And it doesn't have to be a long-term thing.
Right.
It can be, grief after losing a spouse. It could be so many different things because we all have a different spoon bank.
Right. And I think that's the thing to realize is like, we all can fit into this category, like at one point or another in our life. Like we all have these spoons. How many are you using in a day?
Exactly. And I love the fact that, and you touched on this, that we have this entire group. We have a group chat going where if we have something going on, if it's good, bad, ugly, sad, depressing, it doesn't matter what it is, we can go and we can share it. We can ask for advice. We can cry or whatever. And we've got people that use Marco Polo to send messages to each other in support. I think there's the WhatsApp that some use because we've got quite a few ladies from Canada. And it's so cool to see. I'm so looking forward to finding and sharing with more people and sharing all of you with more people because you guys are awesome.
You're awesome.
Thank you. Well, where can we find you and follow you?
So I am on both Instagram and Facebook at Amy J. Arns 1. That's really hard to spell, but
do you want to spell it out?
So AMYJARENDS, and then just the number 1.
And if anyone has any questions, they can always reach out to me or the My Spoonie Sisters page. We can definitely share your information, get you in touch. Is there anything else you want to share?
Just that I'm always here. Like, I am 100% authentic and I show up no matter how I feel. And I just want people to know that they're never alone. So if they're feeling like they're alone, like send me a message. I'm here. I'm here to listen. I'm here to talk. So
I 100% agree. I know that you would drop everything to answer someone right away.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Unless you call me, I might not answer. I don't like talking on the phone, but other than that.
I don't mind once in a while. I do a lot of voice memos. I don't know if people go crazy with that, but sometimes my hands just hurt. So it's easier.
Yeah. It's easier to talk. I get it.
All right. Well, thank you for joining. And
yes, thank you for having me.
Maybe we'll have to do a future update or future topics. Bring
us on the road.
Woo-hoo!
The whole,
share your story of what it's like to travel.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, everyone, stay tuned and we'll see you next time. But don't forget your spoon. The information, opinions, and recommendations presented in this podcast are for general information only. Consult your own physician for any medical issues that you may be having. The information should not be taken as a replacement for medical, clinical, professional advice, diagnoses, or medical intervention. My Spoonie Sisters and guests will not be held liable for any of the consequences of such action or inaction. Trigger warning. Some episodes may cover sensitive topics, including, but not limited to, suicide, abuse, mental illness, and chronic disease. You are advised to refrain from listening if you are likely to be offended or adversely impacted by any of these topics. None of the guests or hosts will be responsible for your use of the information contained therein. Life is not merely to be alive, but to be well. Living a life with a chronic illness is best described with one word: unpredictable. Be Well's products are designed to make the unpredictable easier to deal with. Back when I was getting my infusions, I would have loved to have their adult zip hoodie. They even have one in pink. They also have everything from one-day pill holders to urgency buckets. So remember, they want to make your life a little easier. So be sure to check out Be Well.